Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to a special edition episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. We are going directly live after the Inside Xbox that we just watched. We have an outstanding and packed with talent panel that are going to break down all the games that were shown. We're going to be going into the feeling in the room, what everyone's opinions were towards the end. And of course, let's get right into the introduction so we can break this show down from a-hole to elbow. And we'll start with, of course, someone you know him as someone that cannot wait to play Bloober Team's new The Medium game in the dark with headphones on, ready to play all night by himself. Semi Games, welcome to the show, dude.
You know, I actually looked at that game and I was like, oh my God, that looks so good. And then they said horror and I was like, I'm out. Can't do that. But I'm super excited to be here. I actually really enjoyed that show, but we'll get into all that later. But thank you so much. And I can't wait to jump in.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for being here as always. And of course, you know him as our resident educator, someone that not only has a big presence within the Xbox community, he is a gamer through and through, and he is the voice of the Xbox expansion pass. Please welcome my very good friend, Luke, known as Insipid Ghost.
What's up, Boom? Hello, chat. I am so excited to talk about this Inside Xbox. There's a lot to break down and to pick apart, so I'm stoked to do it. Let's do it, guys.
All right. Well, great to have you here, Luke. And we're going to be breaking this down and really getting into the nitty gritty of what made this show great, not so great, or otherwise somewhat lukewarm. But we'll get into that in a second. Next up, he has become a fan favorite with the Double Barrel Gaming Podcast Network. And of course, you know him as our resident PlayStation trophy hunter. He runs the trophy room and does a damn good job doing it. Please welcome Mr. Bad Bit.
If you make God bleed, no one will believe in him anymore.
Oh, jeez.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have a conversation because I am perplexed, to say the least. So I want everybody to get me on the right track because I don't know where I am right now.
You know what? I think a lot of people feel that way. I think that, but again, we will get into the weeds, so to speak, of what made this show great, not so great again, and not something that someone would pass on. But of course, let's continue with the introductions. Next up, our good friend all the way from the other side of the world. Yes, you know him as Archimedes from Germany. I know him as friend, and so does this community. Please welcome Archimedes.
Thank you, Boom, for having me. I mean, it's a lot we have to discuss today. It's been different from what I've expected, and I think we have a lot to talk about. Let's do this.
Yes, definitely. And last, but certainly not least, our resident, someone would say potty mouth, but I say, yes, we need some cursing every now and again. He is from all the way from Canada. You know him as a community leader and someone that just enjoys playing games on all consoles. Please welcome the very talented Noof Nukem.
Exactly. We're going to get down here. We're going to do it. That was a show, but we'll get into that later. I'll hand it over to Noof.
Boom, Noof Nukem in the room, guys. Welcome, and this is going to be a good show, which probably this podcast is going to exceed expectations, unlike what we just witnessed from Xbox. But we'll give our impressions here shortly. So hang tight. It's going to be a fun one.
You know, yeah, okay. Well, so let you know what. We're going to do this a little differently. We are going to, because everyone seems to be a bit, like Joe said, perplexed on what we just saw. Some might find it interesting. I happen to really enjoy the show from many perspectives because I understand what Microsoft was doing. One of the most interesting things to happen today, right before the show went live, this logo has been making the rounds on YouTube and Twitter, and it's apparently a new badge that every game that supports optimization on the Xbox Series X will have on the cover of its I guess on the cover of the disc box, as well as when you go to purchase the game, it will say optimized for Series X. This is a very interesting logo. It definitely jumps off the page for sure. I actually thought that when I first saw it, that it was made by a fan, but no, this in fact is official. This came directly from the Twitter account of Aaron Greenberg, who has been pushing the new badge, as he's calling it. And I want to get into the show. Normally we save to the end of what our opinions were, but you know what, everyone seems to really want to talk about that, and then we're going to get into the games, because quite frankly, there was a lot shown. Now, again, Luke, you and I were talking prior to everyone getting in the room, so I want to get your first opinion, get your impressions on the see, and I'll give mine at the end of it once everyone has spoken. Luke, this was the start of what is being called, the Xbox 2020. And depending on who you ask, there are going to be some folks in the community that are going to be that enjoyed it. There are going to be some people that are kind of feeling so-so about it. And there's going to be some people that actually did not like it at all, because some of the games, a lot of Japanese-based type titles, may not be in their wheelhouse. For you and the 200 people already watching, what are your impressions on today's show?
I think I'm as I think we're all a bit perplexed, as we said, but I am simultaneously underwhelmed but not quite disappointed. A bit of mix of both. I think I'm going back and forth on how I feel. I thought we saw some really good stuff early on. I like the format where they showed us the games, and then the post show is essentially deep dives for those who are interested. So I really dug the format. I thought it was one of their tighter episodes. It was
evolution. Snappy. Let's just say that for sure.
Certainly. I think it lacked a AAA banger that I was expecting. I think when we did our predictions episode, universally, everyone on the panel that day said they were expecting some sort of tease for a AAA on some level. We didn't quite get that, which I was surprised about. I am happy to see the diversity in the lineup. I think that's something that Microsoft has been lacking. Anyone poo-pooing the Japanese presence there is perhaps missing the bigger picture. I thought that game from Bandai Namco, while not for me, speaks to those who are interested in games like Astral Chain, which is a good snag for them. I really liked the idea that Bright Memory Initiative, that one-person studio in China that gave us all Crisis vibes early on. That game looked great.
You know what? Believe it or not, Luke, just to add to your point about Bright Memory, not only did I think that we were seeing, because I was like, wait a second, it went from like a swamp, he's shooting people, then we saw some like knights. We were almost like Centurion kind of knights that with glowing eyes. I'm like, oh my god, what is this? And then he's using this grappling hook that reminded me of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. There was a lot of inspiration, and quite frankly, that game looked amazing. So again, maybe. I mean, a lot of look. I'll let you continue your point, but that was one of the highlights for me personally.
Yeah, and I agree. And I was taking notes, as I'm sure many people were, just for clarity's sake. I counted 8 world premieres. That's not 100% accurate. I need to look at the press release once it comes through, but roughly 8 world premieres, a lot of smart delivery, some Xbox Game Pass logos. There was a lot of good stuff in this. That game Scorn, which made us all think it was an Alien game, looked cool. There was a lot of good stuff. I just expected to see a AAA game from WB or EA teasing something.
We did.
An EA
I mean,
play.
you know what? But
I would say shout out to the Yakuza inclusion. That was a good get.
You know what? I think universally we expected Batman, and I think we're all disappointed that it wasn't there.
And
Yes.
weird flex at the end with the Microsoft Teams joke. I was like, all right, that's okay.
I love it.
All right, but somebody else, feel free to jump in. I just mixed emotions for sure, and I liked a lot of what I saw, really and truly, and like a lot of those games, I'm very interested to play. And we should all remember that when watching a conference, you should be able to take away 2 to 3 games that you're interested in. Every single game can't be for you.
You know what? I want to say congratulations on that point, because that is something that seems to be lost in translation when these shows have, any show happens, not just particularly an Xbox show, but when you look at these, they're showing, I don't know, I don't have the final count. I want to say it's anywhere between 12 and 15 games. Maybe it's even, maybe it's a few more. Maybe it's closer to
13 today.
13. Okay, well there you go. So I was close. So there's 13 games, And Nuva, I'll go to you next on it because you had the direct count. Listen, like Luke was saying, this show was meant to showcase some third-party deals, some second-party marketing from their worldwide studios that they have, they're doing deals with, like Bloober Team, for instance, and having different genres for different gamers. Now, I like Luke's thoughts when he says that you can pull away 2 or 3 games for you as a gamer. I think it's a win for a conference. What exactly were your takeaways from this show? Were you disappointed? Because it certainly sounded like you might have been.
Yeah, I guess you could say so. And I was mostly disappointed by the fact that I know that just about every game said it's indicative or of the kind of footage we'll see on the Xbox, but a lot of it seemed to be cutscenes, that sort of stuff, not direct gameplay per se. Maybe it's because I'm also watching this through Mixer, and the quality there was not very good either. So I need to see some real good 4K kind of trailers of a lot of these games. But here's the positive stuff. I'll start with that. I mean, there was 13 games showed off today, and outside of Yakuza and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, most of these games were new IPs made by a lot of developers who are on the rise. And that was probably part of it. We didn't see a lot of games made by sort of the major studios or the major players in the industry. A lot of it, yes, it was third party, but a lot of it was very unrecognized. A lot of these names are not household developers. That first game that kicked off the show, though, we'll say that was fire. That had a little bit of everything going on. Like you said, it kind of had a little Sekiro going on. It had a little Titanfall element going on. Then this car pulls up and it looked like it was the DeLorean at a Back to the Future. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, this game was showing everything. And
one person made that game.
Yes. And that one caught my attention. I was like, okay, this one's pretty good. A lot of the rest, it was, like the Dirt 5. Well, I'm sure that game will be mightily impressive. Again, it's a racing game, and those have almost hit a pinnacle where it's really hard to tell with racing games anymore because they all look so pretty damn good. Madden, forgettable. They tossed in literally 2 seconds. It was kind of funny watching the chat on Mixer because they started out with the retrospective and they showed all of the old game graphics, and people were like, "Oh, look at these great graphics!" Right?
Yeah.
A lot of haters over on the Mixer side too, boy. But like, there was a lot of the positives to take into this. Again, was the diversity in the lineup. We got, like I said, you got your Japanese stuff in there that people have been crying for. You got support right from the get-go with a game like Yakuza, so that's going to be big. They ended the show with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and we still didn't get an accurate representation of the gameplay. It looked, again, more like a cutscene. The other one that stood out to me as well, I will say that I think it was the Ascent.
Descent looks fantastic. That's a top-down shooter. That looks fantastic.
The level design and stuff. I mean, it basically is a Diablo-esque sci-fi shooter, but it did look pretty cool. And the medium was definitely like, holy moly. Scorn was definitely like, wow, but
weird.
What the hell did I just watch? Did you get
being that you're a horror guy? You're of course older like myself, not as old as me, of course, and that's fine. But did you get an alien kind of vibe from some of the level design in Scorn?
Oh, totally. The whole thing just screamed, especially what was it, Prometheus?
Yes, it certainly
vibe to it. That's what I was thinking, but yeah, totally. Like, I'm definitely interested to see where that game goes. Now, on the downside, and this is where some of the negative is. Again, we knew, like, us guys on this panel, we knew Microsoft wasn't showing their big stuff. A lot of people, like I said, watching Mixer, they were under the impression we were going to see the Forzas and we were going to see the Halos, and they're just like, no, guys.
Yeah.
But a lot of this lineup, what we saw today, basically screams developed for Game Pass, which is not a bad thing, but a lot of it, what I saw today, didn't go to me, who's a physical game buyer, and go, I want to drop my $80 on that. And I'll let somebody else take the floor, but that's kind of where I left it. I wouldn't say this was a bad show by any means. Like I said, we got lots of diversity. We got a lot of stuff that people have been screaming for, but there wasn't a lot of stuff just jumping out and smacking me upside the head, going, "That's why I need to drop $500 or $600 on a Series X."
No, I mean, listen. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give our impressions up front. Then we're gonna break down some of the games,
sure.
and then at the end of the show, we will give our letter grade as to what our final opinion of the show as a whole. But real good stuff, Noof. As always, I expect no less from you. Zemi Games, let's bring you into the conversation because as we were getting ready to go live, you already was like, "Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of felt like this show was pretty good, but I want you to get into particulars. Why was this a good show for you? Are you feeling high on what Microsoft is doing to bring, like Luke said, diversity into not only the platform lineup but Xbox Game Pass more specifically?"
Yeah, I mean, I guess to start off, yes, it's a little bit disappointing. Well, it's probably very disappointing for a lot of the Xbox fans out there that we're really wanting to see, a snippet of Halo or Fable. For me, I really wanted to see some Fable, right? And we didn't get any of that, and that is kind of disappointing. But I think, the show as a whole, for what they were wanting to give us, was in my opinion, I think a major success. They showed us a huge lineup of games that are coming, either in 2020, 2021, that had huge diversity, right? I really liked how they put in the Japanese games as well, and I think that speaks more volumes than what a lot of fans are going to be looking at that as, because that just shows how far Xbox has come to adopting those those Japanese games into their lineup, and we talk about, Japan and the Asian market so much on this show. And I just think that's a huge key indicator of how far Xbox has come. And all of those trips to Japan are really starting to pay off. And we're seeing that, on the screen right now. But I really liked the show. I wasn't, majorly impressed by any of the graphics, which, these are games going, from this generation directly into the next. We're not going to see huge, graphical changes until later on in the generation. And I do kind of agree with Noof. I kind of wish that we would have seen a little bit more gameplay and a little bit less trailers. Because that doesn't really give you an idea of what the game is actually going to be looking like whenever you play it. But as a whole, I really liked a lot of the games that they showed. The Medium, I thought that was amazing. I saw like the pregnant woman getting her ultrasound, and then you saw like the smoking man that just reminded me of the X-Files, and then I heard that it was horror, and then I started running out the door. But honestly, the one game that probably excited me the most was Vampire the Masquerade.
That actually looked very interesting.
Looks so fantastic. I've been following the development of that game for a couple of months now, and just after seeing that trailer, that's a must buy. I'm gonna have to get that day one. But I think one of the strongest things that Xbox is doing right now is that, they're giving us that thirst. They're making us want to come back and get those things that we missed out on previously. I think it would have been maybe a little bit better of a show if they would have given us like a 15-second clip of Halo or something, just to scratch that itch for a lot of fans that want to see that, myself included, of course. But ultimately, I thought that the show was really, really good. I'm going to be coming back to the next Inside Xbox and the next one and the next one and the next one. I thought it was a little weird how they said they're not going to be showing Xbox Game Studio game footage until July, because I was sitting there thinking, well, what happened to June? You know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do for June?
We're actually going to be talking about what's going on with June on Monday night's primetime gaming. I'm writing a whole original topic on that, and what we're hearing based on some stuff from Windows Centrals and a few other tidbits of information. The June event is going to be hardware and services based, where there is a real strong suspicion that the Xbox Series S is going to have its own show.
Gotcha.
Which would be interesting. But you know what? Let me catch up on some of these super chats before I lose them. The first one comes to us from Alex 1324. He drops an outstanding Very generous $5 super chat says this: in order to properly see next gen, we need live streams to be in 4K with HDR and maybe even with Dolby Atmos audio. Listen, I agree, Axel. I'll be the first one to tell you. I think I was watching it on my Xbox through YouTube, and it did not look that good. And that's YouTube's fault. And I have a 4K banger of a TV, HDR, all the bells and whistles you could possibly imagine. It supports 120 FPS, and it just does. YouTube is either being hammered or it just didn't look good. So I agree. I think that there's. I think if we go later on to YouTube and more specifically look up each one of these games, we will be impressed in a way because oh wow, that looks really good. I can see it because it's going to be the trailer that's going to be running not on a live stream like this was. For some reason it just didn't look good. Real quick, J-Mo Money drops an outstanding and very generous $2 super chat and says this: IGN says The Ascent is an exclusive. I did not know that either. That's good to know because that looks fantastic. Nightwolf 3186 drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this: Ascent looks fire. Cyberpunk / Diablo gameplay. Hell yeah. Also, everyone's sleeping on Starship Troopers Dinosaurs Second Extinction. No, Second Extinction looks great. It's a dinosaur game. How could you go wrong with guns? And Shane Jowanski's Jan Kowalski drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, dude. Super appreciate you checking out the show, Shane. And of course, being generous. He drops a $5 super chat and says this: I think they were testing the water on streaming a show image. A show. Imagine having all your big games on the show and it crashes. I think it would be worse. I'm gonna give you my opinion on why I think the show went the way it did. But you know what? Let's bring Mr. Badbit in. Now, normally he's upbeat. Normally he has something always nice to say. But Joe, you kind of walked into this as if you were a bit punch drunk, slightly perplexed, and even dumbfounded. What were your thoughts on today's show?
Man. So I think in the grand scheme of things, I just saw Michael Pachter speak for a brief second here, and I like what terms he brought this in as of imagine this as the first quiz in the semester, right? You can nail it. You can get an A on this quiz. It's fine because you got, eight quizzes to go. You know what I mean? Or if you fail it, it's fine because again, you got more quizzes to prove yourself type of deal.
Right.
To me, I'm not going to be like, I'm not an all or nothing guy. You know that, Boom. So I'm definitely taken back by going, this was a fine show. What I was expecting wasn't what was there. And I think maybe that's a bit on me. Chat, you can let me know. But I was really expecting, okay, here are 5 games, right? We're going to show you a cool little snippet of the game. We're going to break down this game. We're going to show you why it runs the best on Series X, right? Like I wanted to see the load times improve. Before the show, I tweeted out, we talked about teraflops, teraskips, teraflips. Now we get to see that in the games. And I didn't see that today. What I saw was a lot of CG cutscenes or in-engine footage, but I didn't see any gameplay. At least not a lot of it. Not a lot for me to say, oh, this is why I need to play it on Series X. And even I'll even expand that thought of going, it didn't even prove that I needed to play this on my PlayStation 5. It was just like, okay, so this is coming out. I can just play it on my One or my PS4. There was not anything other than like the medium, I think, that really reached out to me. Luke, call the police with that dog barking. But I think nothing really spoke to me by going, this was a next gen reveal. And a lot of people counterclaim that when I was talking, my good friend Mike, when I was streaming it with him, he was just like, well, Joe, remember that's for their first party stuff. But I don't know. I maybe it was just the way I read the messaging of like, this is the first gameplay reveal of the Series X, that I was going to see something that seemed next gen. And I think the other problem here is what we've been mentioning is this was a streamed event, which means YouTube, Mixer, Twitch, all of that. When you're just watching a video alone, it's compressed. So like it says you're getting 1080p, but it's kind of sort of 1080p. It's not as a clean visual or audio slice that you're getting. So I was watching it on Mixer and I was just like, oh, it's only like they were first giving me 720p. I was like, no. Let me get to 4K. Maybe I can stream it in 4K. Maybe that's gonna, bam. That's what I'm gonna start seeing the ray tracing, And no, like max you can watch the stream at was 1080p. So I was just like, okay, well maybe. Just like Axel said, maybe I gotta watch this again when they put out the VOD when it's in 4K. But
yes,
nothing that they showed me. I didn't see any ray tracing stuff. I didn't see any.
It was hard to tell if there was, dude. That's the problem.
And I think that's the problem with this generation coming closer and closer is. The challenge for all these companies is how do we show the graphical improvements? How do we show the ray tracing? How do we show the FPS count? Like, what do we do there to actually show people? Because not everybody's going to have a 4K monitor or going to have the best, I guess, system in place to actually watch or experience these games. So like, how do you show ray tracing? How do you show that 8K? Like, those are questions that I think these companies are going to have to figure out. And the only way they figure out is by doing these streams, by running tests. Was I expecting this to be a perfect show? Absolutely not. But I think my expectation was like,
they certainly boosted their Inside Xbox game from the last one. So I think you're right about the show over show improving it. They certainly are better than they were a month ago.
Yes,
with their work from home. So that bodes well, I think, for the future.
Yeah, no, it does. And again, this is, even if it's a misstep, even if you want to claim that this was not a good show or whatever have you, again, this is one bump in the road where we have seen Xbox being able to put out messages constantly and get people excited that even if this was a bad show, even if this is the worst thing you ever seen, there is no doubt in my mind that Xbox or Microsoft cannot course correct this fast.
All right, you know what? I like I said, I have a lot to say, but I want to get Archimedes. Archimedes, you also kind of talking behind the scenes prior to going live. You kind of had some things that you wanted to get off your chest. For you personally, how underwhelmed were you with the show? Are you still feeling the same way when we're talking about it, hearing other people's opinions, or why don't you give us yours? What were your thoughts on the? And you got to remember, folks, this is Microsoft's the first one out of the gate. This is the first company putting on a pre-E3 show that is E3 is no more. And again, like it, love it, or hate it, they're the first ones out the gate doing this. Sony is nowhere to be seen. We haven't heard anything. We've heard only rumors. Nintendo just canceled their Direct for June. Because they're having a hard time figuring it out. And that's surprising considering that they are the treehouse masters about bringing a taped, entry, and it's always great. It's never a problem. So Archimedes, give us
busy counting on the Animal Crossing sales.
Well, they're at 11, almost 12 million, by the way.
Wow.
PS, by the way. Archimedes, what were your thoughts on today's show?
Yeah, I'm really torn about today's show because the show actually was very good. You can't complain about the show itself. The pacing was great. Yeah, they have shown some fantastic games. I mean, the dinosaur game, Second Extinction, looked fantastic. The Ascent, there were a lot of cool games shown off. But my big complaint is that this is not the way how you introduce the next generation of your console. They advertised this whole thing as the event where we get to see for the first time Xbox Series X gameplay, and I didn't see that. All gameplay that they shown could be this generation gameplay. It could run on the Xbox One X. It looked good. The games looked good, no doubt. Yeah, and there are a couple of games I'm really excited about, and some cool surprises. But this is not the way how you introduce next generation gameplay. If you show and invite the world to see the first time, the premiere time gameplay on a next gen console, the first thing you have to show is a triple A game. It is not possible to start the show with a double A game that looks good and nothing more. You have to blow the people away. And this is what Microsoft missed in this show. And this is what my expectation was, because that's the way how they advertised this whole event. And I didn't see that. Now, you can always argue about you have difficulties putting the show together. Yeah, and I agree. We are in difficult times, and everyone who has to work from home right now knows about the problems that you suddenly face when you have the situation as it is. But still, it's not the way how you present the Series X, the 12 teraflop machine, the world's most powerful console. I did not see that. I saw good games running on the Xbox One X, and that's it. And that is why I'm really torn about this show. Also, if they introduce or advertise the show with a show that shows off third-party games, I expect the little games and the AA games to be in there, but I also expect 1 or 2 big AAA games from third-party publishers. And the only game that we have seen that is at this level is the Assassin's Creed game. And like Nuke Nukem said, it wasn't even real gameplay. It was a trailer. It looked fantastic, and everyone that follows me on Twitter knows I couldn't be more excited for the next Assassin's Creed game. But that was the only AAA game we have seen in this show. Maybe Dirt. I don't know if you count that as a AAA, but it's not the way how you introduce the next generation. The first game they have in the show must be something you are blown away. And then you can show the Yakuzas and the other games, yeah. I mean,
I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, but I have to shout out Better Man 77 in the chat. And the reason why I want to shout this gentleman out is because he actually makes a great point. He says, "Are we not going to give Microsoft some leeway on the fact that everyone is making the show from their kitchen?" And I don't necessarily think that people are thinking that way. I mean, I understand everyone's frustrations. I understand that this was not the premiere, what you would expect for to show off your next generation console. You see, when I came into this with medium expectations, I understood and had zero thoughts that we were going to get anything first party. Now, I will admit that I thought that we would get maybe Dying Light, maybe some Dying Light 2, close out the show, like one of my big predictions. I thought we'd get maybe a Batman trailer. But we also have to remember this. The one thing that no one in the entire panel, and I don't think anyone from the chat has mentioned, is that if you look back at what Microsoft builds as their E3 every year, right? Their E3 is their games, and more games kind of a mantra is littered with Xbox Game Pass titles, which we had in this. Some second-party deals. Now, obviously with filmmaking all those trips to Japan, the Bandai Namco games are coming, which is fantastic. Sega is giving the Xbox love with the Yakuza series, right? And we're seeing some smaller games that would normally you'd only see on the PlayStation brand. Now, in between what we just saw in this 40-minute show is you would get the Halos, you'd get the Forzas, you'd get a few other bangers. So Microsoft, normally who does a 2-hour show, this is a portion of the show that you get. That has already been removed. We also have to take into account that, like I said a few moments ago, they are the first major company out of the door. You got to understand how big this industry is and what kind of a giant step. See, now what this tells me is that not only was this a test to see how it's going to go. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If I were Microsoft, and I'm glad that they're going in July, and we don't know when in July. Is it the first week? It's not going to be the first week because it's the 4th of July, right? And even though maybe people aren't going to be going anywhere because of what's going on, it's still a holiday nonetheless. So I'm thinking maybe around mid-month, 13th, 14th, 15th, whenever that falls. But I am going to say this. If I were Microsoft, I would be gauging the community because they've been so proactive in being transparent and getting the temperature in the room. They should look to Nintendo's Treehouse events and do the Xbox showcase completely taped. I don't know if it's going to work the way they did it today. It should be Phil Spencer. If you want to get him from his office at his home, get him on screen. Maybe get Matt Booty up there. Maybe get Aaron Greenberg. Aaron Greenberg's got to get a better camera. That's for sure. I understand he had a green screen behind him. You could tell, and the fact that he had a fridge there was hilarious. But if for the Xbox showcase, I think that they should consider doing this. Like for instance, you know how Sony has done their recent small events where it's just a narrator speaking over the games and it's completely taped. That's how it should go. Because again, these are very trying times. This is very right now the way the world is unprecedented, and in presenting your wares, they have to go and find new ways to get people excited. Now, the way Microsoft has been doing it since December 12th has been nothing short of amazing. I mean, we know that, on a press release, we got that July was going to be the big event. That happened the other day when before we went live, which was pretty amazing. Very rare do you get, breaking news, and we got a chance to talk about that. And again, their marketing team is hitting on all cylinders. So even in the world that we're currently in, we have to tip our hat to Microsoft, regardless of every game was for you. You hated every game showed, or you didn't like the fact that it had a few snags because, again, like Better Man was saying, people are working from their kitchens. They're working from their day rooms. They're working from their makeshift offices. Unfortunately, not everyone has a mansion or a studio set up where they could, do this thing professionally. Like for instance, I want to say this, and I want to shout out Aaron Greenberg once again because, like I was telling everybody before we went live, there are some YouTubers that go up there and they do this dramatic performance for views and for clicks. And they get overly dramatic and they either cry or yell or scream. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't care for any of them. I like people that are real. They're going to come on the air and they're going to talk like real people, not like complete lunatics. Okay. And with Aaron, you could tell that whatever he knows, and he knows the whole playbook, folks. This is, he's sitting on the playbook and he can't say anything, but his pure excitement for what is coming and what was happening today came right through, whether it was in 4K, 740p or otherwise. You can feel his excitement. And that's what I love about Aaron. And that's what I loved about what he brought to it. Matt Booty came and, he explained that he started out with what you should say as being a head of a big company is that our employees' safety is first and it comes first and should be paramount. And he did that. And he said that he's very proud of his teams that are finding new and interesting and ingenious ways to put games together from the freaking homes, folks. So, we have to, before we start booing, we have to look at a couple of points here. And that's why I kind of waited to the end, because I'm going to go a little long here. And then I'll get, and then we'll start getting into people's highlights of what happened today. We have to understand that, and I'll say it for the third time, Microsoft is the first one out of the gate, not Sony, not Nintendo, not EA, not Activision or anybody. Microsoft took the first shot. And even though it might have been it may not, when we come back and look at this, and maybe 6 months from now, it may not have been the best shot for you personally, but you have to applaud every game that was in here, because even though it didn't show well, and I really don't think it did, because I watched it on a TV that has all the bells and whistles, and it just did not look that good. But that is what we're going to have to deal with. I expect the same thing for Sony. I expect the same thing for Nintendo, and I expect the same thing from when Jeff Keighley starts showing off the big bangers like like Batman and whatever else he's going to have during this summer showcase that he's doing. I think those instances, those small programming instances, are you going to see? Are we going to see, a WB kind of a show where it's 30 minutes, 26 minutes, and we get a Harry Potter? I know, Zemi, you'd like that. And we get a Batman in there, and we get something else, and you're like, oh, wow, that was a show. That was all AAA stuff, bangers, whatever. The one thing that no one mentioned, and I think it's super important because Sony has yet to mention it, is how this entire show was built on the backs of the smart delivery system. Folks, we have to understand something. If there's one thing that immediately jumps to anyone's forefront thinking for this generation, it's going to be how many times or how many second games that you bought for an HD upgrade. Because that was the running thing. If you remember early in the generation, it was HD everything. And of course, I supported it, and I bought the hell out of everything. But at the same time, we have to applaud Microsoft for getting in front of this and letting people and their gamers and their community and their consumers know that when you buy a game on the Xbox One, you will get a free upgrade for whatever. Like, for instance, they talked about how Dirt 5 is going to run at 120 frames per second or run at 60 4K. I mean, this is a big deal. So you know what? I'm gonna get everyone's go around again and get everyone's highlights for this. What game highlights. But let me just catch up on some of the super chats before I lose them. A good friend of the show, LMNOPO, drops a $2 super chat and says, I agree with Bit. They also did have games. Correct about that. Kirby Louise actually drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says this: there was ray tracing shown off. I have a few screen caps with it circled on my Twitter feed. And yes, they're at Kirby0Louise on Twitter. I follow them, and I think you should as well. Get over there and check out those screen caps. LMNOP drops an additional $2 super chat and says this: it was great to see every dev supporting Xbox. Yes, absolutely. A very good friend of the show, a very generous friend of the show. Robert Jones once again amazes and delights with his very unbelievable and unchallenged generosity with a $22 super chat and says Scarlet Nexus was hot. I agree. They asked for a mature and damn some of that was a bit uncomfortable and got me mad and interested. Yeah, there was some really creepy stuff in there. LMNOP once again shows his generosity with a $2 super chat and says they confirmed 120 frames gaming from the dev. Yes, that is absolutely correct. He drops another $2 super chat. Thank you, LMNOPO, for your generosity. 60 FPS devs shown, even if video quality didn't. Yes. So listen, Luke, let's come back around to you. For you personally, I don't want to go in a top 5, top 10, break it down from 13. For you, what 3 games? Like you said, 2 to 3 games, you walk away from it, say, wow, I was impressed. What 2 to 3 games for you walked away and was like, yeah, I'm interested in this game. I'm glad they showed it.
Oh man, more than 2 or 3, which I was excited about. Because again,
go crazy. This is a good conversational podcast. So if you got 5, throw 5 out there. It's fine.
So the first one they showed, Bright Memory Initiative, I was really high on that one. I love the art style. I think it looks really cool. I love the meshing of eras that seem to be accompanying it. You get swords to guns to shields to knights. I like that idea. I love the twin stick shooter Ascent. I think that looks really cool. I think Diablo fans are going to really like that.
And it's an exclusive, by the way.
And that surprised me. I missed that part when I was taking my notes. And so I'm glad to see that one there. I thought Vampire the Masquerade, I don't know if I'm excited for it. I'm interested in that one because it gave me a lot of mixed vibes. I was like, am I looking at a Joker game at one point? I was like, this is a new maybe this is and Paradox Interactive has a good track record there. The Medium did not do it for me until I realized it was Bloober Team, and they did such a great job on Blair Witch.
Yes, they
which
did.
launched in the Game Pass day and date, and Blair Witch was just stunning. So I thought that was a good one. I'm looking through for games that really just spoke straight to me. Chorus looked really
That's by
cool.
Deep Silver. Yes, that looked fantastic as well. Yes.
Yeah, I said 2021, so it'll be a little while, which actually does not bother me, real talk, because we're talking about a lot of the failings in this show of showing what was next gen about it. And so if we're expecting to see everything look next gen out the gate, well, we have how many generations teaching us that that's just not likely to happen with most games. Very few games. We're going to get Killzone, Shadowfall, and Rise. Like, as much as people love or dislike those games, games came a long way from the beginning of a generation to the next. So, you know, I thought I liked seeing something that was a little bit further out. But yeah, and Second Extinction. How can you not like dinosaurs and guns? For half a second, I was like, "Is this Turok?" I'm excited.
Oh my god, yes, I thought that too. Yes.
So you know, I thought that really and truly there was some stuff I was like, I'm excited for this. There was not one major game, and that's what missed out on it for me. I was like, there was not one game I was like, yes, I cannot wait for this one thing. In fact, I walked away thinking, oh, this is good. I got like 5 or 6 games I'm interested in. And I mean, that's the ticket. It's all going to be about services to start: smart delivery, Game Pass, available subscription wise. That's what I think is going to get people in early on. They need 1 or 2 launch game bangers, and we weren't expecting to really see those today anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. You know what? Let's bring in Mr. Bedbit. Mr. Bedbit, you know, obviously there were 13 games shown.
Yep.
Again, maybe not every game is for you. I can't honestly say I don't know your game taste, but for you, what of the show stood out that you were like, you know what, I got to get more information on this. I'm probably going to go back and watch the show again to see this running in maybe a better frame rate, maybe a better visual, be more visually appealing for you, and you'll come around and say, you know what, I did go back and I did watch it, and now I'm even more interested in the game.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say this. Just because you're working at home, no excuse.
I don't know about that. I don't know, man.
VOD.
I mean, you should get some leeway on certain things. Like, obviously, camera quality is not going to be the greatest. Microphone quality is not going to be the greatest. Right. But I do agree with you in a certain sense that a video editor and a capture card is going to work just as well at your house as it would be at Xbox, especially whenever you're a part of a company that has millions of dollars. I agree with you on that point, but other things I kind of,
No. And I think that's what we're all like. Look, we're all giving them the benefit of the doubt that, like, you know, we're seeing, you know, Aaron Greenberg's refrigerator, right? Like, we get that, but like in terms of like what we saw here, it wasn't anything like substantial when it comes to the things that really mattered, which was like gameplay and all that stuff. And again, compression comes from the fact that they're beaming this out to hundreds of thousands of people. So I just want to say that overall, though. There are 3 games similar to Luke that I am excited about, that I am going to probably get, but probably, unfortunately, not on Xbox. So The Ascent, which actually I think we just said it's an exclusive. It's coming to Game Pass, I believe, as well.
Yes.
That is something I will be getting on Xbox. It looks awesome. You give me top-down Diablo-esque, you know, like bullet hell, I'm all in for that. That looked really awesome. It gave me Elysium-like vibes, and I'm all down. I'll name my character Matt Damon. I don't care. It looks super awesome. I'm super in on that game. That was actually the first game in there where I was just like, all right, this is we're at it. The second Extinction. Luke, I literally thought, me and Kyle, we were like, is this Turok? Looked really cool, really gruesome, different. I like it.
Real quick, were you excited or disappointed when you saw it was multiplayer? Because I had mixed emotions. I was like, yeah, play with my buddies. Also, I really wanted it to be a single player. What'd you think?
I think they'll give you the choice.
I think that the way that it was pitched sounded as if you were, because we got to remember, they first showed you playing the game single. At least it appeared to be single player, where it was just one player, and then they bring your buddies, and then it showed the 3 people walking. So I think it's cool. I think it's going to give you the ability to play the game yourself, learn the story, enjoy the single player aspect of it. But I think that if you're enjoying it and you want to bring a couple of buddies into your game, I think it's gonna give you the option to do so.
And that's
my biggest
Avalanche
fear.
Studios, right? That's
Yeah,
people that made Rage, and so like we know it's going to be a ton of fun as well. So like that I'm all in on, and me and Luke are gonna go out there. We're gonna be hunting down T-Rexes, Velociraptors. So I'm all on board.
God, he's right.
God.
No,
Every time we see one of them big critters, that's what I'll say. And then for Zemi, the medium.
Yes.
Stop it. Stop it.
You gotta get Zemi to hang up on the show.
So good. And then they said horror. I'm turning down my mic now.
The medium look. Now that was the second game where I was like, all right, this is awesome. And when they said that the same composer from Silent Hills is doing the music here,
yes,
awesome. Totally on board. Bloober Studios. What a funny name. I could say that all day. Bloober. But like, awesome. Those were 3 games that I am hyped for. Different levels of hype, of course. But I do want to bring out smart delivery. If I'm Sony, I am looking at this. I am seeing Microsoft is nailing this.
Yes.
People are excited for this. And from what everything is shown and what EA has even come out and said now, it looks like it might be the same for PlayStation 5. But man, oh man, it needs to be. This is a feature that is killer, that needs to be on the PS5. And I think it's a huge selling point for Xbox Series X.
You know, it's funny. I want you to elaborate on this for a second,
sure.
Because you and I had a private conversation, and I kind of want to bring it forward because it wasn't any secret information, but it was an opinion that made me sit back and do some real thinking. Mm-hmm. You had said something regarding the smart delivery, and you said how Sony themselves, at this point, if they don't have this, they're going to be in trouble. But you made mention of something that was interesting, and your exact words, if I recall correctly, was what if Microsoft knows they don't have this?
And I think that's why they're making like when we were talking, I'm like, what, like they're nailing down this point for a big reason. And I not that it's a hard, I believe that Sony doesn't have it, but I think this is Microsoft not just covering their bases, but then also covering a future base of, if Sony comes out and says, no, you're just going to have to buy it twice, or you're going to have to pay a $15 upgrade. Microsoft is already there with lines of dialogue saying, day one, whenever these patches come out, you get the asset packs for each game. They get upgraded. To the Series X model, and that's what I think is the most telling, that Microsoft really wants to nail home this point that you buy it once and you're done. I'm interested to see how Sony markets it towards the Sony community, the PlayStation community, because I was just discussing this on the latest episode of the Trophy Room. There are some PlayStation people that are kind of confused by smart delivery, because they're like, well, isn't that PlayStation cross-buy? And so like there's this huge confusing discussion around it. So I think it's an opportunity for PlayStation to look at the playbook that they have currently, seeing what Microsoft is saying and seeing what people are liking what they're saying, and kind of saying, hey, Microsoft, can I borrow your homework for a minute? And I think honestly, with this performance for Microsoft, I do feel like this is going to be a similar performance for PS5. I think the more points that these are going to be, we're seeing games. I think they said the first year or two going to be on both. So I do think that this is going to be a more gradual turnout of converting into the next gen console. And I think these consoles are going to be pretty expensive. That's the other thing that I was like thinking in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both going to be $500, dude. I think that's what we're going to get on that. But you know what, Zemi, before I bring you back in, okay, Zemi, I didn't grab your ear yet. I want to do it, but let me just catch up on some of these super chats. First of all, we're about to we're about to cross 500 live viewers for the show, and before I get into the super chats, I have to say this: I am humbled beyond belief because right now there are at least 6 other major podcasts doing their show. And I have to say that the fact that you guys and gals that are 500 people here, we officially have crossed 500 in the live chat, that took the time to be on to watch my show is extremely telling. And I cannot honestly tell you thank you enough, because when I started the channel, I had no idea whatsoever that I was going to have any success. I was very forthcoming about my prior career. I thought that was a lot of people warned me about that could doom me, and I've obviously proven myself to this community. But to have this many people when there's so much going on and so many other bigger, much broader shows going on is tremendously humbling. So I want to thank everybody. So let's get into the, of course, super chats. Philly Eagle, a good friend of the show and a very open-spoken gentleman. He says this: everyone whined about games. You got bang, 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 then interviews. You could have exited, and if you didn't like the interviews, being upset is your problem. And you know what? Big shout out to Philly Eagle for keeping it real, because listen, I'm sorry to say, in a 40-minute program that gave you some behind-the-scenes stuff with some interviews, you got 13 games, and a lot of them were new IPs, some of which were exclusives, some of which are going into Game Pass. I think that this show, once you sit back and watch it a second time, whatever these grades are, next time we have a show, we're going to revisit this for a 5-minute topic to get people's temperature once again, because sometimes you need to see something. It's like listening to a new album. I could listen to the new Hollywood Undead album, right? Which I'm a big fan of their music, right? And I could hear it and I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling this as much as the last album. And then while I'm working out, listen to it again, listen to a third, a fourth, a fifth time, and I'm like, you know what? This shit is banging from beginning to end. I don't know what I was thinking. So we will revisit everyone's grade maybe a week later. But Cat Daddy Lurk with the outstanding and very generous $10, who just says new IPs, interesting themes, great visuals, not all great games, but not one bad game shown. First interview was and AC needed more 2 minutes of footage. I agree, but he gives the show a 9 out of 10. That's a strong opinion, dude. Thank you so much for your generosity, but your strong opinion. Jesse Darby, a good friend of the show, drops a $5 super chat and says this: I thought it was a good show. I went in with my expectations tempered, and they exceeded what I expected, especially that game by that single by the single developer. Yeah, that was the way you opened the show. That's just my opinion. Elemental PO drops an additional $5 super chat and says this: Xbox just posted 4K videos on YouTube. I will be checking that out. Thank you for the info, brother. And of course, thank you for your continued support. Pixelbit G, good friend of the show, and he's also a very generous donor, drops an addition a $10 super chat and says this: Sony has not confirmed smart delivery allow no FUD. It is not cross-buy. It is more complicated than that. All games shown were 4K, at least 60 with ray tracing. That's a strong opinion. Oh yes, the Iron Lords game. I mean, the Iron Lords podcast shows up. Thank you so much for being generous, and of course checking this out, because they had a show as well. 500 strong. So proud of your growth, Boom. Iron Lords salute. Thought third-party mature show was solid, but can't please everyone. LOL. And this is from my brother Cognito. And yes, I agree with that. But you know what, Zemi Games, let's bring you into the conversation. Again, 13 games shown, a lot of new IPs, a lot of going into Game Pass, all confirmed to be smart delivery, which is big. They keep driving that home. Mm-hmm. And I agree with Bad Bit in his assessment that maybe they know Sony doesn't have it, or actually has it yet, or willing to talk about it, and they are what were your personal highlight games from the 13 shown? Other than, of course, your number one being the Bloober Team game called The Medium.
That looked like it was really going to be my number one, because it was like it was checking off so many marks, and then I heard the word horror and I was like, no, and then I heard that the music is composed by like the same guy who did Silent Hill. And I was like,
Silent Hill
definitely
2, yes.
no, I'm out of here. What are you talking about? But I think I've already kind of said this. I think like the number one game that really just kind of excited me the most was like the Vampire Masquerade. I just absolutely loved it, and I had no idea what it was at the very, very beginning. I
thought you were going to play as a serial killer. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I thought too, and I'd be okay with that. I think that would be kind of fun. That just shows what type of person I am. But I saw the creepy puppets and all that, and I was like, I don't know if I'm in this. I might be out. And then I saw like the similar gameplay that I kind of already seen before with some of the previous gameplay of the game, with the jumping from rooftop to rooftop and all that different stuff, and just like the quirky dancing and jumping down from buildings and fighting people and like calling in bats to kill people. I don't know what all you're going to be doing, but it looks to be like just an absolutely fantastic game. I do know, at least like I've read that it's an RPG, and I believe that it has like open world or semi-open, world aspects to it. I mean, the game just looks absolutely fantastic, just right up my alley. However, it does look a little creepy, but I think I'll get past that. So, I mean, that easily has to be like the first game that I'm really, really excited about. The second game would be Chorus, that sci-fi game. Yes. I just love sci-fi. I love Mass Effect. I love the Outer Worlds. I love anything like that. I don't get enough of it. I wish that we would get more Mass Effect and more, just more stuff like that. But anyway, this, the game, it just looked absolutely fantastic. Like that's one of the games that really shot out to me as being like, okay, this kind of looks like a next gen game, for sure. And then I kind of got some Hellblade vibes off of the character, having the face paint on.
Yes.
Strong female character. Really liked that. Saw that big planet blowing up and I got excited. And then, just flying around in ships and stuff. I just thought that game looked really, really cool. And it's definitely going to be a day one buy for me for sure. And then I really liked what I saw from Bright Memory, and I don't know, like it just really caught me off guard. Like I was looking at the game and I was like, wow, this is really impressive. And then whenever the car's driving off road and stuff, like I know that there's a bunch of wind. It kind of looked like there was some rain, but I didn't notice any rain droplets on like the windshield. Then again, it might have not even been rain. I started thinking, well, that's kind of lazy. And then I heard that it was made by one guy, and I was like, okay, all is forgiven. That is incredible. Incredible that one person could make that game. I think that they should throw more people on it just to make the game even smoother and even better. But from what I saw, it looked incredible. I got some Titanfall vibes running on the wall and stuff. I got some of those shoot, what's that new game? Ghost of Tsushima vibes. Yes. With like the grappling hook.
Yes.
And then I just saw some like knight just teleport out of nowhere, and I was like, what is this, time travel? Like this just looked incredible. I really, really liked that game. And then, I wasn't really necessarily excited about Dirt 5. I'm just not really that big of a racing game fan. And if I'm going to play a racing game, it's going to
be Forza, I would imagine.
It's going to be Forza.
Of course.
But one thing that did excite me out of their deep dive was they were talking about how the game will be up to 120 frames. And they didn't, whenever they were talking about 120 frames, they never really mentioned the resolution. So I kind of think that it would be downgrading the resolution to like 1440.
Listen, I put it this way. I would imagine it would be at if they're going to do I'll put it this way. If they could run the game at 4K solid 60 without any hitches, I would imagine that if they're going to run it at 120 frames, it's probably going to be 1440p, maybe 1600, maybe even 1880, depending.
Yeah, which will still look absolutely fantastic. I mean, but what really excites me about that is I was actually kind of talking to Bad Bit before the show about this. Is like I really want to see Xbox allow developers to put 120 frames into their games because maybe and if they didn't do it for all games, that's perfectly understandable, but like racing games, first person shooters, there's still a lot of gamers more so on the PC side of things that prefer to have a higher frame rate, that would prefer to have 1440 at 120 rather than 4K at 60, because the more frames, the smoother the gameplay, and it's just a better experience for first person shooters and stuff like that, in my opinion. So I really wanted to hear something about that, and I kind of did.
I got a question for you though, Zemi.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because I'm not the technical master here, right? What if it's like 120 FPS in certain frames? Like, let's just say for what was it, like Everbright, right? Like every time you thwip, like, and you hook on something and you grapple towards it, it's like a smooth 120, and then when you're back on the ground, it's 60. You know what I mean? Can that be pulled off? Can that be achieved?
I don't know if I would like that or not, because I think that you might, with like a rapid frame drop like that, you might notice that in the game. You know what I mean?
Okay.
May I jump in here real quick? I think this is a perfect showcase for the VRR feature. In the end, they want to keep the frame rate stable at 120 frames per second, but they will definitely change the image rendering quality depending where you're looking at. The trees on the side, they won't be even rendered in a equivalent to 1080p, because you don't have to, but they focus on the car and everything you are looking at to give you the good pixel quality. I think this is a perfect example for VRR.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I actually have not thought about that, like having certain areas like in the background be like 60, and then like what you're actually seeing and what you're actually visualizing and whatever being 120. I don't know if they could do that or how they would do that, but that would be amazing technology if they could. So yeah,
I don't think it's happening. I don't think it will happen with frame rates. It will happen with pixel density.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So like pixel density, that way, the less important parts of the game, like further out, the trees that you're not really going to be paying that close of attention to, would be, a lower resolution, allowing the game to run at a higher frame rate. I got
exactly.
You. Yeah. Exactly. No, that's actually that's a really good point. I would love to see them actually do that. That would be impressive technology. But the last game that really caught my attention was like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We have been like hearing about rumors about this game for forever, and then I think it was like the last show I was on, we finally it was fully announced and whatever. I really enjoyed not just the trailer that was shown today, the gameplay, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, that was shown today, but I really enjoyed the previous trailer as well. And I'm very excited about that game. I love Vikings. I love, like the TV shows like The Viking and The Last Kingdom and stuff like that, Mercia, Northumbria, just like that whole historical, I guess, time frame or setting. And so it just really excites me. I cannot wait to see what happens with that game. But I hope that they do make quite a few changes from Odyssey, because I really did not like how grindy that game was previously, how Odyssey was, and I didn't really like the single player microtransactions, but I really liked what I saw, and they kind of introduced the main character more, which I really liked, talked more about the settlement building. And like another thing that they also kind of showed slightly that I really liked was in the first trailer, whenever like the ships are rolling up to England, it looks all bright and happy and nice, like the paradise everyone wants to go live in, which I get that, but England isn't necessarily doesn't look like that, you know what I mean, like all the time. I mean, I'm sure that it's kind of a dark and dreary place, and I know that like during that time area or that time period, like like the world was a little bit hotter in those regions and stuff, but I liked how they showed like the transition of time, and it was dark and it was dreary sometimes as well. I just really liked the look of that game.
Okay. I mean, listen, you had some really great picks. Noof Nukem, let's get you in the conversation, my brother. Again, maybe not a 10 out of 10 show for you, but I think that they showcased enough, especially because you mentioned it, a lot of things were new IPs, which was impressive because, obviously these are new games with new characters and new subsets and new lores and new ways to play. And I'm very excited for you. What were your top picks? No particular number. You can have 8, you can have 10, you can have 3.
Sure.
What were your personal highlights for you regarding the games that were shown?
Well, first off, the show MVP goes to Aaron Greenberg and the Black Xbox.
I
Fridge.
love it. Yes.
It's nice to know that, they are paying attention to, things that get said through social media and various podcasts. And, they're able to make fun of that and make fun of themselves. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of people on the Mixer chat who would actually buy the damn fridge. So maybe Microsoft should hook up with one of these companies.
I'd buy that fridge.
I'd buy one of those fridges. At least get a skin for it and wrap your fridge in an Xbox thing. But yeah, all jokes aside, like I said, it wasn't a terrible show. I mean, again, a lot of it is about maintaining your expectations, right? We knew they weren't going to show off again the big first party stuff. I think the biggest disappointment overall wasn't really the games shown as much as we would have liked to see more concrete gameplay shown. I mean, we saw the Ascent. We did see gameplay there of that. I'm pretty sure that was gameplay mixed in with a little bit of trailer stuff in between. And it looked definitely like Bright Memory Infinite. That definitely looked like gameplay. I think Second Extinction definitely looked like gameplay. So there was various amounts of it there, that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of us will need to go back and watch a lot of these trailers later on in a better quality setting to get a better idea of maybe what we should have seen. But I mean, as far as standouts of the show, I think I said at the top, I mean, Bright Memory Infinite just looked really good. I mean, the first thing I noticed was like, man, this looks like Titanfall. And hey, that's never a bad thing. Like you said,
exactly.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? And if you want to take, the good stuff from Titanfall, like I said, you mix in a little sci-fi, little shooter, little Sekiro going on there with the arm grapple and swinging up to, because I mean, even this setting looked like it was set in some sort of Japanese or something there with the buildings and
a little wall running
you,
also. Yeah, so you got that Titanfall stuff in there. Yes.
Yeah, so like that, and to know, like I said, that one guy was basically responsible for the majority, or if all of that at this point in time, it makes it more impressive. So imagine what he could do with a great studio behind him and an unlimited budget. But there's things that are very interesting, like Scorn, which some people are kind of grossed out by it and then what the hell was going on. I guess I liken Scorn to sort of like watching the Death Stranding videos. They weren't really sure what the frig we were watching, but very intriguing. Some sort of a lot of almost like sexual innuendo going on in there, right up Newcomb's alley. There was something leaking out of the wall, but I don't want, I know this is a PG.
Yeah, I don't know.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, there was something leaking out of the wall, guys. Go back and watch it. And,
could we say reference. Alien penis live on the air?
I mean, that's what it looked like. Like it was coming out fully erect, and then something happened, and it just looked like
there's like white ooze coming out. I was like, what the frig is this? And then there's like a
you have a good show when you can say alien penis on the air. I gotta tell you.
yeah, we'll see that in all 12 teraflop glory. Oh man. But that one Chorus kind of seemed interesting because we haven't seen a lot of space shooters in that vein sort of thing, so that might have some potential. That Call of the Sea looked intriguing, but at the same time was kind of like I don't know. But at the end of the day,
Walking Bright Simulator, I think, for that one.
Yeah, Bright Memory, the medium, like a horror game, but just they have mixed it up with look like a little bit of gameplay toward the end. They start out with look more like the CGI rendering kind of stuff, but that game definitely looked very intriguing. Second Extinction looks like it could be a ton of fun. We haven't had a lot of Turok style shooters, I suppose you could say, with lots of zombies, but this is a different take on a shooter with giant dinosaurs coming after you. Yakuza is great to see. Like, it's a new Yakuza series, but it's coming out sort of like, looks like it could be a day one, like alongside with the PS5 release where we just got the Yakuzas for Xbox. So if you're an Xbox player, Xbox centric gamer, who is excited by Yakuza, then I think that's great. And like I said, a little bit let down because Assassin's Creed Valhalla speaks for itself. It's probably one of the more anticipated games of this year. Now, one of the things I also learned through Ubisoft and some of their statements, it wasn't on this video, but I was reading something this morning that they said Valhalla will not be as big as Odyssey and a few other things that they stated. So they're
that
taking
made
that
me
to heart.
super excited, Noof. That made me so happy because I get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. Even though the games are incredible, I get overwhelmed and intimidated by that.
Yes.
So that news actually made me really happy. I just want to jump in. I really am glad to hear that.
Me too, because I think it could benefit from a more focused experience instead of just dragging things out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Odyssey, but that game is daunting. It's massive. Like I think I just popped it in yesterday, and I was like, I think I was 16 or 17 hours into the game, and most games you're almost completed by the time you get to that 20-hour mark. And this one is
13%.
yeah, exactly. You know, but I mean, overall, like I said, lots of new IPs. I mean, the thing is, for the disappointment side, and this is something that still kind of flabbergasts me to this point, is Microsoft is one of the most in tune companies, or it appears to be, with their fan base and their demographics. So when they're doing these shows, instead of having that big sigh of disappointment, why don't they do like leading up to the shows? And perhaps they do, it's behind. I don't know how these things operate, but when they're picking out the content that they want to show and how they want to deliver it, why not go to your fan base? Why not go to a survey and say, what would you guys like to see, and go with the highest percentage? You can't always please them, and they don't want to show everything all at once. I get that they want to string it along, and with no E3 this year, really makes everything very interesting as how they release their information. But why can't you do that? Just go to your fans and make more calculated, because again, this industry is based on perception too, right? How it's perceived. And it's like anything, a bad trailer, a bad showing, just a bad vibe anywhere can kill products long before they come out. And that's a big reason why we don't see as much gameplay, because it's harder to disappoint people with CGI essentially than if you put out the gameplay and it really looks underwhelming. So something like that, just like your show should be set up in a way like a good movie. You have your slow intro, your build, your climax, those sorts of things, right? When you go out strong, and I think you alluded to it, Boom, like maybe something like, even if there is, say, a Batman game out there in the wild, or there something like that, something that people can recognize, something that people know and are familiar with, and get people excited before you close the show. You go out with something really big that people had no idea, right, of what to expect. Because like I said, we didn't expect half of the games you showed today, which is one of the positive points of the show. But there wasn't, like I said, a lot of stuff being shown today that people were like, oh my god. Remember the Final Fantasy remake original dropping of that game, right? Back a couple, like many eons ago, many E3s
I think
ago.
2015 that game was shown.
But remember, they just teased it, and you remember the excitement. Obviously, it lived up to the excitement. People are loving that game right now, that remake, the episode 1. But just that level of excitement by something nobody expected, but yet a very familiar franchise. There's so many familiar franchises out there that, one guy said, I think one guy said it in the Mixer panel. I saw one of the chat comments, and he said, "Oh, you got like 1,000 Assassin's Creed titles, Ubisoft, but you got like 4 Splinter Cells. What's the deal?"
That was actually one of my picks from the prediction show. I thought for sure they'd close out with something big like that. I agree.
Yeah, but anyway, like I said, there was some really good stuff here. I'm not like, oh my god, this was terrible. Look, at the end of the day, guys, and I'll leave it on this note, at least Microsoft is proactive and they're showing stuff, whereas PlayStation has not even stepped up to the freaking plate.
Yep.
But yet somehow people are going to claim that they can hit a home run without even putting the bat in their hands.
No, that's a strong way to close it out. Great stuff as always, Noof. And you know what? Before we get into, of course, the grades, and we'll close out the show with that. Archimedes, for you personally, again, you said it. You felt underwhelmed, and that's fine. But there had to be something here that tickled your pickle, so to speak. What were those games? How many were there? 2? Were there 3? Were there 7? What games stood out to you of the 13 shown?
First, let me set it straight again. I did see a lot of games I'm actually looking forward to play. This isn't my criticism. My criticism is in the way how Microsoft advertised the show and what they end up showing. Yeah, it's. I needed this. What Newf Nukem said. This one big banger. This one moment where my jaws dropped to the floor, and this didn't happen. But putting that aside, there were actually a couple of games I really thought they were interesting. The first that stood out to me is Second Extinction. It's been mentioned before. I got directly a Turok vibe, and I can't wait for that. It also showed off some great lighting. I want to see that trailer again in 4K and HDR glory. It really looked good. The other one is The Ascent. I'm a huge Diablo fan, and everything that is a top-down shooter looter kind of game, I'm definitely up for that. I didn't get that it is an exclusive.
No, IGN confirmed it was an exclusive. Yeah.
There is Bright Memory. I mean, that guy must be a genius doing that single-handed. Wow, respect. I directly got some Bulletstorm vibes, some Sekiro vibes. It's a really interesting title. Can't wait to see more of that. Then one other thing that surprised me was they put in Madden there, and I'm not a big Madden fan. To be honest, I never played one. What surprised me in the announcement of Madden is that EA is supporting the smart delivery. Because I was always wondering which of the big publishers will actually support that. And the first one that came to my mind, which probably won't support it, is EA, yeah, given their history. But them confirming having smart delivery on the next Madden game, that is fantastic news, because if EA does it and Ubisoft does it, I don't see any major publisher not following on that fantastic feature with smart delivery. So that was something that really stood out to me. I really liked the look of Call of the Sea. It was this cartoonish looking game that looked very interesting. And of course, the medium. When that started, I thought, oh, is it something like Detroit Become Human? Yeah, some walking simulator with a fantastic story. But then I heard horror, and what they've shown looked really awesome. I can't wait to play that game. So there was quite a lot in that. And of course, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yeah. Looks fantastic. I like the darker setting of it. I also enjoyed the interview with Ashraf Ismail, or I hope I'm pronouncing his name correct. He's a really cool dude. I remember his interviews from Assassin's Creed Origins back in the days. He is really passionate about the Assassin's Creed franchise, and him delivering something new like base building and like these big battles when you raid some forts in England. This is something I'm really looking forward to, and I still think the game looks gorgeous. I would have loved to see at least 10 seconds of real gameplay. Yeah, it was a great trailer that is captured in engine, but it wasn't real gameplay. Still, this is of course the one I'm most excited for. So there's a lot of fantastic games in that show. It was great paced, no breaks. I really liked the approach that they put first out the trailers and then the interview stuff at the end, because for those who are not interested, they simply can turn off the show now. It's a great format for an Inside Xbox episode, and I think we can look forward to some fantastic games.
Very nice.
All right.
Thank
Yeah, good job, Archimedes, with a killer answer.
Nice.
Archimedes, real proud of the show. Good insight there. I want to go to Zemi Games. Zemi, when you look back at this show, what do you think Boom's gonna say?
What's that name? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh.
I said, listen here. I was on me. I muted myself. Damn it.
Did you have one of those moments like, guys, can you hear me?
No.
what's going on?
I was actually just about to read the super chats, and I was like, oh, I'm muted. What an idiot! Because you know what it is? I had someone with a very loud motorcycle go by, and I just didn't want him interrupting my show, even though the entire neighborhood's now alarms are going off because he's an a-hole.
Boom. Let me transition you to you. Okay.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it. Thank you for.
All right, Mr. Boomstick XL, I want to get you in here on the conversation. What are your thoughts on these super chats, and more importantly, what are we going to see going forward from the super chats?
You know what? I hope that the super chats continue, but I'm also very very happy that people feel comfortable enough to donate. But no, all jokes aside, Sin Vendetta drops an outstanding and very generous super chat, and he says, "Wow, when I started listening to this show, I was not expecting Boom to name drop Hollywood Undead. Crazy. Is it 2008? Love their first album. You know, it's funny, Sin Vendetta. Every time I see your logo pop up, I immediately think, because you know they all wear masks, right? Especially on the first album, you see they're all wearing masks. What your particular picture looks like one of the masks that they would be wearing. So I always equate you coming into the show to, of course, one of my all-time favorite bands, the Hollywood Undead. A lot of people don't even know who they are. They're very rock rapish. I love them, and you know I know that they've had some problems, but their last album I'm getting used to, and I'm enjoying it. And of course, Nightwolf 3186 drops a $5 super chat and says, "Hearing Boom say alien penis is hilarious and still has me weak." Yeah, you know what? Again, how many shows can you could walk away from and say, yeah, they were talking about an alien penis? No shows can do that.
Well, if I'm gonna be honest, I was on 12 last week, and we talked about alien penises. Like,
you know what? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not the first one. You know what? Before I get everyone's grades, I want to give my particular top picks. First of all, for me personally, Bright Memory is the highlight for me, and for a lot of reasons. And you know, when you heard that this was one person doing this show, making this game, it brought me back. I'm not sure how many people remember this game. It was called Dust, an Elysian Tale. It was part of Xbox Summer of Arcade. If you've never played it, it was fantastic. I believe it's backwards compatible. And it is, if you like Metrovanias, this game is for you. Again, a game made by one person. The game was a complete masterpiece. For me, it was a 10 out of 10. I actually reviewed that game, and that's the vibes I'm getting from the one person team making everything. Bright Memory has me very excited. Of course, Bloober Teams, the Medium, because I'm a huge horror buff, definitely jumps off of the page. But there were a few other ones, I mean, obviously, the Madden and the Dirt 5 don't really do much for me personally. But the Ascent, the top-down shooter that everyone, I believe everyone on the panel had something to say nice about that, because again, it's a Diablo style. We don't know if it's a looter shooter per se, but it probably, represents that in some way, because again, it very much resembles a twin stick shooter with Diablo thrown on the page. And the other one, believe it or not, for me, is again Second Extinction. Who doesn't want more dinosaurs? I mean, we're all clamoring for Capcom to remake Dino Crisis. So until we get that, this looks like it's going to be fun, and it looks as if you're going to be able to take advantage single player and also bring your buddies in, which is always great. And let's see, what other one from me personally? Let's see, the Ascent. I got to be honest with you. A lot of people didn't talk about this, but Scarlet Nexus it looks fantastic. I mean, I like those types of games. Maybe, Nier Automata is not your bag. Maybe the game that's on the Switch, Luke, the name escapes me.
Astral Chain.
Astral Chain, yes. I actually have that game. Those types of games, those types of experiences, yes, they have very heavy anime Japanese themed. And maybe they're not for you, but they're definitely for someone. And the last one that no one mentioned, and I think that deserves mention, is, of course, Like a Dragon, the Yakuza, side story. Because again, this is a franchise that people have been clamoring for to be on Xbox, and it proves that all of these trips to Japan weren't just for him to get the best sampling of sake. It was to make these deals. And I'm going to be honest with you, we know that all of their other games are going into Game Pass. This is probably going to go into Game Pass too, and it's a double win in my opinion, especially if you like, the Yakuza series. I call it Yakuza. I don't know why I do that, but the Yakuza series is big on the PlayStation. In fact, huge. And to have it on the Xbox now, guess what, folks? That's a big deal. So you know what? Let's do the round robin, and we'll start, of course, with Insipid Ghost. Insipid, if you were to grade based on what we talked about, based on your personal feelings, what would be your overall grade for the Inside Xbox for today's show?
Oh man, something I'm well versed in. Since 8 a.m., I have been grading papers, so I'm right with you.
Okay, nice.
So I look back at the show and I look at it as an optimistic C plus. Like I enjoyed the show. I liked it. I thought it was a good improvement over the previous one. As for the way that it was pitched to us versus what we got, it gets a C. But it's a C that I enjoyed a lot of the stuff there. There's a lot of stuff for me. The presentation was solid. It lacked that big oomph to kind of put it over the top, and it would be silly to expect an A+ show right now in June when we know that the big stuff they've already told us is in July, which begs the question what we see in June. But right now I go with C. And I'm not angry about it whatsoever, and I've got stuff I'm looking forward to. But as for Series X, C.
Okay, that's strong. That's strong. Okay, but Zemi Games, what would be your personal grade? You seem to like it a little bit more than most. What would your overall grade be on the show?
I was fluctuating between two different grades, but I think I'm going to go with a B+. And the reason is I just really, really like the show. Multiple games really stuck out to me. There was something that, I think most people can find that they would be, at least relatively interested in. Of course, they didn't have any huge announcements, but, once again, no one really, I guess, should have expected that. Is the best way of saying that. And I wish that they, kind of like Noof Nukem, would have shown a little bit more gameplay. They did show some gameplay, but not as much as
enough,
advertising it as a gameplay reveal. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give it a solid B+.
Okay, strong, and let's bring in Mr. Badbit. Mr. Badbit, you have been sitting on this for a while, and now you had an opportunity. Maybe you watched some YouTube videos. Maybe you started watching the program again. For you personally, what were your takeaways regarding a grade for today's Xbox show?
They showed me a lot of games I'm interested in, but they didn't give me a reason to buy a Series X today. Which again, it is what it is. We have so many more events to sway me over there. We don't know what's in June. We know July. We're going to finally see Halo Infinite. We're going to see more. I was expecting, though, more from this reveal. So with that said, walking in knowing how excellent Xbox has been, I know that they can take this event, learn from it on the fly, and then start adapting to it and adapting to the changes that need to be had. So to me, I'm kind of on the C camp with Insipid. I liked some of the games we were shown, but I could still play them on my PS4. I could still play them on my Xbox. And at the end of the day, if I'm Sean would never lie to me, Layden, and I magically started working at Sony again, and I'm on Sony headquarters smoking a cigar right now, I don't feel anywhere near stressed about having to show something. Like we've talked about over and over again, things start marketing, the real marketing talk starts happening in June. I don't feel like this puts any pressure on their competition to do anything still right now. And what they're going to have when they do reveal it, right? You're going to have those God of War 2, Spider-Man 2, Horizon 2, Uncharted 5, whatever moments. So if I'm their competition, I'm not nervous. And I think this was a bit of a missed opportunity. So I'm a little let down. I really, really wanted to see more in-depth gameplay. I know we saw some gameplay, just didn't see enough. I want to see the load times. That's like my biggest thing. I want to see what makes these next-gen consoles different. We talk about teraflops, and I freaking want to see them real bad. So it's a C. I'm optimistic, but still disappointed.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion, and no one should have their opinion based on someone else's opinion. You know, you some people loved it, some people will lukewarm. That's fine. Nukem, let's bring you back into the conversation. What would you grade today's show?
I just wanted to come out there and say that today I would
Arnold,
grade this
nice.
show. I would give it a C+. There wasn't enough Terminators in there. There's got to be more helicopters, Terminators, Commandos. We're going to kick some ass, but we did see some alien penis, but we'll leave it at that. Oof. Look, man, I'm going to give it a C+. Like I said, it was far from terrible. It just wasn't overwhelmingly like, oh my God, blow my mind. Like I said, and all he really needed at the end of the day was just one thing that they know fans have been chomping at the bit for. Give us a little teaser, send you out on a high note that could have changed the whole dynamic of what we saw. But look, good on them. Like, one thing Microsoft is really doing well here is putting their support behind their devs, giving them a chance to shine. A lot of, there's going to be some fantastic games that were shown off today. I guarantee you that. Whether you're interested in them or not, somebody's going to play these games. They're going to love them. I think there's going to be some real winners in here, maybe some sleeper hits. But overall, like I said, diversity was good. The support for the Japanese games is coming along quite nicely, and that's good to see. So like overall, there's lots of stuff to be positive about, and sure, there's stuff to be disappointed. But I guess it depends on which chair you want to sit in today. So again, C+ for me. Like I said, there was some definitely stuff to like here, but I think they could have shown off a little bit more, or like I said, something that was big. But I think that's yet to come, obviously. So like, hang on, like hold on to your pantyhose for another couple of months, because we are going to see some stuff. But Mr. Badbit said it best. There's interesting titles here, but there wasn't anything that I saw today that kind of jumped out and said, my God, I need the Series X. I know at the end of the day, I'm probably going to need it. And I think it's going to be proof is in the pudding, proof is in the gameplay. And I think when you finally see the Series X perform, much like we saw with the Xbox One X, it's very hard, and hopefully everybody agrees with me here, but I don't know if anybody even tried going back to like the S or the OG Xbox and play some of these games now. It's tough. Like, even playing my standard PlayStation 4 right now, like I never noticed before, but I'm noticing a lot more now since my last one was the PS4 Pro, and I'm even noticing now like the difference in the texture quality and how blurry some of the games tend to look. So I'm constantly checking my eyes. I'm like, is it friggin' eyesight getting bad, or is these games a little blurrier than I remember? So there you go, right? So it's like the little things, but hopefully soon that's all going to be behind us. But yeah, half decent show, could have been better, but was not terrible by any means.
Okay, not bad. So last but not least, Archimedes, what would you grade today's Xbox program?
Well, if it would have been a regular Inside Xbox episode, I would probably be in Sammy's camp and give it a B+, something in that region. But considering that how they advertised the show and what they actually have shown, I'm giving it a C. I felt a lot of great games have been shown, and if they would have said, hey, this is a show for our AA devs to be able to show off their games and not be that they get a little bit more spotlight, because when they would have put in these games in the big events in June or July, they wouldn't get any spotlights. Nobody would talk about them. But now games like The Ascent are the thing on Twitter right now. Yeah, the games that people are talking about. And if they would have advertised it like that, it would have been different. So it's probably just my expectation going in there. Why I felt a little underwhelmed. It was a good show. The pacing was great, and but it wasn't the way how you reveal your next generation console, and that's why I give it a C.
I mean, listen, again, everyone's entire. I want to read Matt Burns, good friend of the show. He says this: most third-party studios have events planned for their biggest titles. Xbox was getting the lower tier stuff today. It looked great to him, and it starts with a gradual ramp up to launch. I have to agree, and I'm going to jump on the Zemi bandwagon here and give it a B plus. I walked away from the event feeling very confident that Phil Spencer has listened to its fans. As a matter of fact, there was something for everyone. Every genre was represented, from sports all the way to FPS, and there was a sprinkle of little, of walking sims in there with the Call of the Sea. You had some horror-based titles. You had some really wacky horror-based titles. You had some Japanese, based, gameplay. In the two games, something that the Xbox brand has been missing this entire generation. I think that even though we didn't get a chance to see Batman, even though we didn't get a chance to see Cyberpunk or pick a third party AAA banger, throw it in there, we also have to understand that this is an event that's going all the way through to August. It starts in May with Xbox, Inside Xbox on the 7th, which is today, running all the way to the end of August. And that's just the Jeff Keighley stuff. We had confirmation. I mean, think about this for a second, folks. When you judge the shows, Microsoft has already come forward and said, until the launch of the console, all the way to the end of the year, every month, we're getting something. So in June, we're hearing it's going to be a hardware services event, which means that they're probably going to go into xCloud, more particular, the back end of xCloud, and we're going to get a hardware reveal of the Series S. We're probably going to get some sort of a price. We could get some tech talk from the Series X that we haven't heard about, and they give us a price, right? So that's the June show. We have a July show that's completely from asshole to elbow, first-party game studios. You're getting announcements that you've never known. They've already said you're getting gameplay trailer. You're getting reveals. And then on top of that, we have the initiative getting out there and already telling you that this summer they're going to be giving. There's going to be a very special video going into a deep dive of an IP that's unannounced. There is so much going on. This is just the appetizer. You're sitting, you come into to dinner with your family. You're starving, so you start nibbling on the butter, and the bread, right? And then they bring out the cheese sticks or the loaded mashed potatoes or whatever, and you start nibbling on that. You know what? It's not a meal. It's just the start of what's coming. Now, whatever your entree is going to be, the steak, the filet mignon, if you will, is going to be that July event. And everyone is going to be like, you know what? After seeing that July event, I understand. So I'm giving it a very strong B plus. I liked the levity of Aaron Greenberg. I like the fact that he saw. I mean, think about this for a second, folks. This is a major a guy within the ranks of Microsoft, and he starts it off with a refrigerator, and that everyone was making fun of this thing in his kitchen. I mean, obviously it's just a background image, but that's freaking hilarious. So I love the pace. I think that it was game. They gave you all the games. They give you world premieres. They gave you new IPs, a lot of Game Pass stuff. They really drove home the nail about everything being smart delivery, which was huge. And then they had a couple of little deep dives with the developers with Dirt 5. Now, granted, I will say I wanted more Valhalla. I'm not going to lie. I would have loved to see maybe, the first part of a mission. Him running through the streets or whatever the hell he'd be running, jumping off the boat, stabbing a few people. I would have thought that would have been much better than what we got. But overall, I am extremely happy. And as we close in, and again, this is another record-breaking show, considering that everyone is home and everyone is podcasting right now. We are closing in on 670 people. Almost 700 people showed up to today's show. I am beside myself. in awe, really in a complete awe. Of course, I have to thank all of the outrageous super chats that continue to come in. The generosity that you show me each and every show is honestly not to be believed, and I am humbled every time, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And of course, I want to say a big thank you. And of course, this panel was rocking. Everyone had really strong opinions. Everyone backed up their opinions. No fanboy nonsense, no finger pointing, just gamers giving their opinion. So let's get everyone out of here as we're getting close into the 2-hour mark of a show that I didn't expect to be this long. And we'll start with Insipid Ghost. Insipid, first of all, dude, I gotta tell you, I'm not only even a bigger fan of your podcasting prowess, if you will, but I am loving your interaction with the community. I think it is top notch. It proves that there are many, many content creators with skills for days. You are one of them, my friend. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding weekly show.
Oh, thank you, Boom, man. I enjoy being with you guys so much and hanging out in chat and seeing the interactions with so many of you guys on Twitter. It means a lot. A lot of you guys follow me on Twitter at Insipid Ghost, and I appreciate that. And I host a weekly Xbox podcast where I do an analytical approach to the gamerverse from the Xbox perspective. And I also have on guests to expand our knowledge of the gaming verse. Most recently, I had on Gamers Outreach, an incredible charity, which I would urge all of you to look into. They work on
great charity, dude. Great charity.
They put Xboxes in hospital rooms with kids who are there for a long time. And Zach came on and talked to us about how we could raise awareness for that and help out more kids who are stuck in those hospitals right now. And that's the Xbox Expansion Pass. Every week you can look forward to a voice actor coming on in the next 2 weeks. I'm really excited for her to shine her light, including some of her experiences in Halo, which is pretty neat. And so that should be fun, man. Xbox Expansion Pass. Thank you, guys.
Oh, well, again, great to have you here. You're a partner in Halo 2, basically Halo everything recently, but more importantly, Halo Wars 2. By the way, that video that you put up in Sipit of you just annihilating whatever that last base was the most epic destruction in seconds I've ever seen in war.
That was Bit's idea, and we coordinated it, and it was the coolest thing. Yeah, man. I'll let Bit talk about that. That was dope.
Bit, you know what? Again, let's bring in Mr. Badbit. Mr. Badbit, first of all, having you a part of the shows has been, for me, a huge treat. Simply because, again, highlighting some of these smaller YouTubers, and of course, I'm a part of that crew, is something that I strive for. Because I think that we should be forward thinking about helping others. Now, not everyone thinks that way, and that's perfectly fine. I don't condemn anyone for it, but I will tell you that if you listen to my show, I try to go out of my way to lift others up, at least to bring them to my level. Now, would I love to push them higher? Absolutely. And I hope that I've been doing that with some of the newer talents that I've been bringing on. But you, my friend, have become a favorite, not only of mine, but the community. And you've gotten lots of messages from people. So do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can check out your outstanding Trophy Room podcast, which, of course, is dedicated for the players, by the players. I took that from you. And, of course, where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, man. So first and foremost, I got a poll on social media at Mr. Badbit. I want to know everybody's thoughts, what your take on the conference or whatever we're calling it right now, the video was. Okay, so go over at Mr. Badbit. I put a link in the chat. Go check it out. And yeah, tell me your thoughts. I really want to know. With that, yeah, I run a YouTube channel called Bad Bit Games where the Trophy Room resides on. I will be making a video about more of my thoughts on what we saw here from Xbox today, so you can experience that sometime later tonight. So Go over to Bad Bit Games. And yes, the Trophy Room, a podcast made by the players for the players each and every Thursday. That means today you can check out the latest episode. Me and Kyle actually gave a lot of praise to Xbox this week, as we kind of do all the weeks. But yeah.
Well, I mean, and listen, to be fair, to run a PlayStation-centric show, it has been kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, a little bit. So I am hoping that Sony does something soon.
You and me both. But no, seriously, we talked a lot about smart delivery. We talked about Cyberpunk. We talked about The Last of Us leaks and all that. We got to see Kyle's live reactions to the story trailer, all that goodness over on the Trophy Room. Again, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and on YouTube at Bad Big Games. So there you go. That's all me.
Thank you so much for being here. And Zemi Games, you, my friend, the bravest man in the podcast. That is definitely something that you are not going to wear on your around your neck as a title. But you listen, Zemi, listen, you bring it every week. And I say this, and I wholeheartedly mean it. Since you have joined the team for the Xbox Factor podcast, I believe it has been elevated to 1,000. I think that you bring it each and every week. I think that you are fair, you are honest, but more importantly, you are a gamer and you enjoy doing what you do for the gamers, and we definitely appreciate it each and every week. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, learn how to cook like Zemi, and also check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much, Boone. Those are really, really nice words. And then, I'm actually about to go outside and grill some ribeye steak. And
I want some pictures
on some skewers, and yeah, I'll definitely have to take a picture of it, and I'll definitely have to post it on Twitter. And if you guys want to see that, definitely, go follow me on Twitter. It's at Zimmy Games. My DMs are always open. So, if you heard something on today's show that you liked, or maybe you didn't like, or you want to know, I guess, more of why I think, today or this month's ID at Xbox, no, not ID, Inside Xbox, deserves like a B+, just send me a message, and I love interacting with the community and all that different stuff. And I'm relatively active now on Twitter, so definitely give me a follow if you're interested in any of that. You guys can also go check out my YouTube channel. It's called Zimmy Games, where I post a bunch of gaming related content, gaming news, reviews, tutorials, unboxings, and stuff like that. I'm actually about ready to do an unboxing for an iPad here in a few days. So definitely go and check out my YouTube channel if you're into gaming, stuff. And that's it. Boom. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, real quick, Thanos, a big friend of the show, he says this, Zemi's a cool dude. He grew on me like fungus.
That's a very accurate statement, like fungus.
I love it. And Noof Nukem, obviously, Noof, you are one of the community's finest. We had Arnold show up, which I didn't anticipate because, obviously, we have to pay him every time he gets off the chopper. And, obviously, we do have restricted budgets on this program until, of course, I am syndicated. Then he's getting live on the show, and we'll have him flown in and have a nice green room for him and everything. But you yourself, you are actually in my personal opinion, you stand out as being one of the top-notch community members for a lot of reasons, Noob. Not just because you were a podcaster, it's not because you have a very no-nonsense way of telling it like it is, and I love that about you, but you are always pushing the envelope with the inclusion of having game nights and playing with other players from the community. I love that. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, potentially be grossed out by some of the things you say on social media, but more importantly, check out your show with your lovely co-host.
Yeah, first of all, when you're checking out my content, guys, and I don't do a whole lot of it, and I do apologize for that, but maybe one day. But it like Broom said, it can my content sometimes is like you'd hear in most podcasts, except a lot of times I'm dropping some more adult humor or immature humor, depending on which way you want to look at it. But I just want to give a shout out first to the amazing chat. I mean, over 600 people here watching today. It's phenomenal. Obviously, to the panel members, you had a great crew today. Zemi, Incepted Ghost, Archimedes, Mr. Bad Bit, and of course you, Mr. Boom. You are the best host going, man. You are basically the YouTube version of Alex Trebek at this point. Always prepared, always a good time when I'm on your shows, and I'm always honored to be here. Like I said, a great chat as well. So I appreciate being here. And as far as my stuff, guys, like I said, Noof Nukem pretty much anywhere. If you look it up, you'll find my channel, just Noof Nukem. It's not Newt either. I don't know how many people said Newt. NWET. It's Noof Nukem. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, guys. yeah, Gaming After Dark Tuesday nights. Myself, Primal Eve. This past
Well,
week
you just had Salty on, right? So you
And-
had a big guest this week.
Well, even bigger guest next week. The man who just spoke, Mr. Boomstick's going to be joining us next week, guys. So don't forget about next Tuesday night. Mr. Boomstick will be on Gaming After Dark. It's a little bit late. It's 10 Eastern, but if it's not past your bedtime, come out for our hot take on gaming, media, all that good stuff. But anyway, guys, good show. I'll toot my flute and get out of here. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Noof, and I look forward to, of course, guesting once again on Gaming After Dark next Tuesday at 10 Eastern Time. And, of course, last but not least, our very good friend all the way across the globe. Now, I know that in Germany it is a little late. We probably ran past dinner time for you, and I apologize. But, of course, love having you on the program. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone about your very awesome YouTube channel that is growing much larger than you thought, and anyone thought for that matter, because you put out some amazing content, but also how active you are on social media.
Yeah, well, first, thanks again for having me on the show. It was a special one today, doing all the reactions with this fantastic panel. I had a great time. Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel at Boxenberger. Same on Twitter. Yeah, I'm putting up on my YouTube channel about one video per week that is thought out opinions about topics of the video game industry. And also sometimes I put up reviews of the games I'm playing. It would be awesome for you to check that out. And on social media, Twitter is my main channel. You can find me there at Boxenberger as well. And I'm always discussing everything gaming related. Just hit me up. My DMs are open. If you want to talk games, I'm always there.
Well, listen, dude, you are definitely one of the content creators like Insipid, like Zemi, like Noof, and of course, like Mr. Badbit, that I think that people should definitely keep an ear on. Definitely, you bring a different flavor and opinion to the game. And even though what I love about everyone that's on this panel right now is even when their opinion is negative, and you are allowed to have that, they break it down in a constructive way that you can talk about it without yelling. And I think that is what I love about everyone that's on this panel, and that's what I really try to bring forth with the content that I put out weekly. And of course, we did that today once again. So thank everybody for being here. I want to wish everyone a great day. Of course, we have another show tomorrow morning, Breakfast with Boom. I'm going to be doing a tweet later on, giving a breakdown of who's going to be on the show. It's going to be good. It's going to be a 50-50 type show. We're going to be talking some PlayStation games. We're talking some Xbox stuff. So I think everyone could tune in there and have a good time and enjoy themselves. So tune in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the newest episode, of course, of Breakfast with Boom. And I'll close out the show with something that I do each and every time because I think it's important, especially now. And my father was a blue collar dude, work construction. And he was one of the wisest and strongest men I know mentally. And he used to tell me all the time, he used to say, son, you treat others how you want to be treated, and it doesn't cost anything to be nice. 2 rules that I can guarantee that if you live by, you will have an awesome day. So enjoy the rest of the day. Be safe, be kind, and of course, play whatever, wherever, and just enjoy gaming. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care.